Hey everyone, it is March 18th, I think, and the bees are starting to wake up. We're finally getting some warm enough days that the bees are getting out and flying, and it looks like we're going to be low 60s for the next couple of days. That means the bees are going to be really active, and but nothing's really started to bloom yet. I've heard a few people tell me that they're starting to see something come in, but just a tiny bit. It's probably maples. I don't think the willows have really started to bloom yet. I could be wrong. It probably depends on where you're at out here in the Uinta Basin. But in the meantime, I'm trying to get things ready to go, and we're going to give my bees a little bit of a kickstart with some pollen sub. So I'm making up some pollen sub. So in this bucket I've got, I think it's like 8.5 pounds of water, hot water, and then 21 pounds of sugar. I'm going to put in a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and then in this measuring cup I have the Apis biologic bioactivator, and I've measured it out for the batch that I'm going to be making. I'm going to put in probably 2 cups of canola oil in with it, and then I think it's about 13 pounds of pollen sub. When I start to get close mixing the pollen sub in, then I just kind of keep adding until I get at the consistency that I want, and I'll kind of show you that here in a minute. I've mixed up the sugar and the hot water and just let them dissolve as much as I can. It's pretty well dissolved as much as it's going to be. This is the Apis biologic bioactivator. I like to get that in first, and then just a couple of, maybe 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. And to that, I'm going to add 2 cups of canola oil. There's 1. There's 2. And I'm going to mix that in pretty good. And then I have one of these cups, and I've weighed these out. About that much is just about 1 pound. So I'll put about a dozen of these in, and then we'll kind of stop and see where I'm at. At first you can put 3 or 4 in at a time, and then mix, and then there's 3. There's really not much to see here, just mixing. I like to get it mixed in as well as I can before I add the next batch of pollen subs, so that's not too bad. So let's put one, 2, 3. As you can see, we're still pretty soupy. That's only about half the pollen sub that it needs, so got a ways to go here. You can see it's starting to thicken up a little bit, but we're not there yet. Okay, so that should be about 12 of the 13 pounds of pollen sub. So this one's going to thicken it up quite a bit. You can see I'm just about there, I think. I like mine kind of goopy. I don't like them quite as dry as the recipe calls for. And one thing to keep in mind, all of that protein powder went in dry, and it's going to soak up some of the moisture, and so this is going to stiffen up even more. I think I'm going to leave it at that. You can see it's still pretty runny, but it's going to stiffen up on its own as that pollen sub absorbs all the moisture in there. So I think I'm going to leave that. I can always add a little bit more, but you can't take it out. So if it's not quite thick enough tomorrow when I go to Wednesday, whenever I get out to start putting this on my hives, if it's not quite thick enough, I can add a little bit more and thicken it up just a little bit. And as you can see, got all my boxes. They're all painted with a second coat. And now I can start working on some of my old boxes and kind of rehabbing them. So until next time.